Hello. It's really nice to be back. And I saw Wyatt and was able to thank him in person, but now I have a chance to thank him in public. I'm really grateful to be back, and I'm honored to be back. There you are. Thank you. And really pleased. Last year, the 2 weeks were quite amazing in this special place, and I appreciated that I was able to place my little feet in the giant shoes of Dan O'Brien, and I'm awfully happy he's back. So I thought instead of teasing you with the first act of a full-length play, I'd read a couple of short plays, 2 or 3, 10 minutes, as they say, a particular form of its own. And I found it's a nice condensed way to engage with something that has particularly struck me and something that I can really jump into and not have to stare out the window for a year before I think of what I'm going to write. So the first couple of pieces come out of a general fascination I have with extreme acts, often acts of extreme self-sacrifice, one might say, the attempt to be altruistic, however diluted, or heroic, or both, it might be. So this first piece is a monologue play, and it's partially about extreme mountaineering, and comparing it to a very particular kind of feat, which you will hear about during the course of the play. And as is the luxury of the playwright, I get to have somebody far more talented than I come up and read the work. So for this first one, Emily Shing.
Hi. I'm up here to talk about my sister, obviously, given she's the one rotting in the casket over there. An easy way to tell us apart, right? Used to be I was Jill, the older sister, or Jill, the one who climbs mountains. Now I am Jill, the one not rotting in the ground. Speaking of rotting, how's that for a segue? Up near the top of Mount Everest, which I've never climbed, there's something called the Death Zone. It's fun, right? It's the part of the mountain above 26,000 feet. The Everest summit is 29,000 feet, so, for those of you math impaired, that's 3,000 feet of death zone. 3,000 feet where the oxygen is 1/3 what it is at sea level, where the climber's body shuts down its own digestive system and literally goes into the process of decomposing, consuming itself, chewing on its own muscle and bone for its last remaining energy. And despite all that, these crazy-ass climbers drag one foot after the other up that final distance. It's incredible, right? The power of the individual will to do something so beyond the boundaries of human endurance. It's heroic. Of course, not everyone makes it. Oh, here's a fun fact. If you die that high on Everest, you can't be buried. Anyone even attempting to bury someone in that death zone would die trying. Doesn't matter, really. At those temperatures, the body doesn't decay. It freezes, so it's perfectly preserved, except for a few appendages and the face, which gets eroded by the ice and wind. It makes for one of the, more evocative sights on the way to the summit. The frozen corpse of someone who died trying, someone like Rob Hall. Rob Hall? Anyone? Bueller? 1996, one of 6 climbers from a single expedition who died. My sister, Evie, she wasn't a climber. I always tried to get her to do climbs with me, but she always declined. I decline, she'd say in that peppy voice of hers. Though she did love to talk about it with me, and how in the Bible, how in mythology, it's always a mountain that the hero ascends for epiphanies, or to talk to God, or to overcome a great trial. Moses, Jesus, blah, blah, blah. It's just a climb, I'd say. But that wasn't enough for Evie. No, she had to elevate it with meaning. Meaning. Evie's mantra. That's what she used to ruin every damn holiday we had growing up. I'm not kidding. Every one. Easter. I'm 12, and all I want is the bunny and the egg hunt and some of those nasty marshmallow things, whatever the hell you call them. Puffs. Those are the best. But then here comes 8-year-old Evie. It's not really Easter if it's pagan rituals we're following. She insists instead that we get something more in line with the meaning of the holiday, something that celebrates the resurrection, the miracle of rebirth, something sacred with possibility to redeem the world. She said that. I am not kidding. 9 years old. And so instead of candy, my parents over there let Evie pick out a bunch of caterpillars in a butterfly tent. And that's all we got. I hated Evie for that. And then a few weeks later, there she is in the backyard, holding this brand new butterfly in her hands, and tears are streaming down her face as she watches it take those first slow motion flaps of its wings. The miracle of rebirth. I was so mad at her for that. For making me love her so damn much. St. Patrick's Day. That's the holiday she ruined this year. Her freshman year of college, it's not such a good time for Evie, even discounting the fact that she died during it. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln. Evie wrote a letter to the student paper a few days after St. Patrick's. Maybe some of you read it. She described her walk through campus, dodging through all those post-St. Patty's Day puddles, the ones hurled from the students' stomachs, made of beer, bile, half-digested corned beef. Evie's letter went on to describe the 2 girls on our hall who told her they were, quote, pretty sure they were date raped. They were so drunk at the time, the details were hazy. She described the 2 other girls from her dorm who took trips to the emergency room. One who fell down a flight of stairs at a fraternity party, the other one with food poisoning, alcohol poisoning. I mean, here is our sweet Evie off to college, suddenly encountering all of these girls at such a pivotal time in their lives, so unhinged, disconnected from anything meaningful, sacred. It must have disturbed her deeply. This may not be the most fitting way to celebrate the life of St. Patrick, she wrote in her letter in that ever-peppy voice. I mean, St. Patrick, his most famous feats were climbing to the top of a mountain and fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. Remember? I doubt anyone did. I didn't. Apparently, the guy was fasting in order to win concessions from God to help his suffering people. Suffering, it seems, because God was angry and punishing them for clinging to their pagan rituals. So St. Patrick fasted for them, to help them, to get God to ease off. And when God saw St. Patrick's level of commitment and his suffering, he relented. Eventually. After 40 days. Evie made it to 36 days of fasting. She was in a stupid little room, I guess, she rented off campus, up on a hill, with a bathroom and no kitchen. So here's a fun fact. Did you know that the exact same thing happens to the body during starvation as happens to it while climbing the death zone on Everest? At some point, in her kitchenless apartment, my sister's stomach began to devour itself, her body breaking down its own flesh for fuel. They say it's agony when your body becomes a living, rotting corpse. And for Evie to go on in the face of that. The dean and the head of student psychological services, what's their response after they find Evie? A campus-wide email cautioning all girls against the perils of extreme dieting. If you're out there, you 2 morons, it was not a diet. What my sister did was not a reaction to the freshman 15 or an eating disorder. It was an act of will to wrest concessions from God on behalf of those girls in her dormitory who were suffering for the same reason St. Patrick's people did, for being pagans, for being lost, for worshiping all the false gods she saw all these girls worshiping: boys, sex, beer, body image. For them, she climbed her Everest. For them. She didn't leave a note, Evie, so you're all thinking this is what? Guesswork. I did know she talked to some of these girls. They dismissed her, I'm sure, so then she wrote to the paper. And there was nothing from anyone. So then what would give St. Patrick's Day meaning? Provide the possibility to redeem the world like her goddamn butterflies. I think Evie believed that when she got to day 40, God, as he did with St. Patrick, would relent. He would intervene and relieve these girls' suffering. That she'd return to school after day 40 to let these girls feast on the sight of her emaciated body, and maybe that would inspire them to see the light. And next St. Patrick's Day, they'd all fast instead of getting blind drunk and having frat boy mountaineers climb over their every peak and valley. So they'd find meaning. So they'd go beyond their pathetic limits and experience the world themselves as sacred. That's what the extreme climbers say, isn't it? About why they risk death to climb Everest. They say they do it to inspire others, inspire mankind to go beyond their own limits, to move closer to the divine. So here's one more fun fact for you. When all is calculated, about 1 in 6 climbers dies trying to reach the summit of Everest. And those who make it, they keep returning to try it again and again and again, until most often they one day die doing it. Rob Hall, the frozen corpse people pass on the way to the peak, it was his 30th trip up the mountain. So I guess what I'm saying to any of you out there who have called my sister disturbed or delusional, you better damn well say the same about Rob Hall or Edmund Hillary or Tenzing Norgay. On the other hand, if you're one who calls these men heroes, as I certainly do, then you better damn well call my sister the same. Evie, my beautiful, courageous sister, you are twice the climber I'll ever be. But at least I get to bury you and not leave you frozen in the snow.
Fun, light little one to start off with. So that came out of learning about, in Ireland, an 83-year-old woman and her 3 nieces made a pact to starve themselves to death, to ascend to heaven together, to purify themselves, to enter the spiritual realm together. So it came out of that, learning about that. Okay, we get increasingly lighter, don't worry. The next play is based on an event in Amsterdam, at the Amsterdam Museum of Modern Art. Picasso painting called Nude in Front of the Garden was defaced. A hole was cut into it with a blunt knife. And the person who did it, they referred to as a Dutch psychiatric patient who lived in a clinic in Utrecht nearby, and he requested leave to go out and visit the museum. And there were discussions after among the museum community about Dutch security, and that it was lax and they tended to be casual, purposely so. So I was interested in what was in this man's mind, but also interested in the idea of security and what it means to be secure emotionally as well. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that. So now we'll bring up the fabulous Sean McIntyre and Emily again, and I will read a short role, a small role in this as well. Oh gosh, and Darcy Bruce has agreed to read stage directions. Thank you, Darcy. Sorry I forgot you.
No worries.
Can you hear me? Hey. Nude in front of the garden. A large room in a small but prestigious museum. A padded bench sits in the middle of the room. Two men, one tall, one short, stare transfixed at a painting.
Nude in front of the garden.
I can read.
Nude in front of the garden.
I can read.
I feel things.
I read things.
I am not a passive observer. That's not just paint. There's no paint.
I see paint.
It's the medium, you moron.
I am not a moron. I read.
Read, then. What does it say?
Nude in front of the garden.
Wrong.
Not wrong.
Wrong, you're wrong. You read the words. Don't read the words. Read the painting. What do you see? She's nude. She's reclining on a chair. Read the image. What does that say?
Picasso?
That's the fucking signature.
He pulls out a butter knife.
I could scrape that off and it wouldn't make a difference.
You're not supposed to have that. I'm telling.
Listen to me.
I'm telling. You brought that with you. They told us at the clinic. They told us we couldn't bring things with us. Nothing. Not even gum. No gum. No anything. They said it. Twice. Once on the bus when they searched us. Hey, how did you even...
Listen. What if, when they give us lunch here, we're served toast, but the butter's on the side, not on the toast like they have at the clinic? And what if all they have here are little white plastic knives that can't even cut through what will more than likely be a much too frozen patty of butter? The plastic snaps, and it's stuck in the butter. Butter patty with plastic stuck in it. Now, that's dangerous. Now, do they think of that? And do they think of how shitty dry toast is? It's shitty. I won't eat it.
Yeah, me neither.
Now look. Look and read her body. Why are you laughing? What do you see?
A vagina. And boobies.
Very good. What else?
Her legs look weird. They're short.
And her feet are on backwards. And it doesn't look like she has any arms. And she's smiling with her little red Valentine's lips. And a big chunk of her head is missing, yet all her features are smushed to one side of her head, so the part that's missing is deceptive and almost doesn't look like it's missing at all. And how many toes do you count on that foot?
4.
What happened to the other toe? Huh?
I don't know.
Guess. Imagine.
Maybe a weed whacker?
Maybe. Maybe. And that's very gruesome, isn't it? And what does that mean about her head and her arms?
Oh, God. Oh, God, I don't know.
But you can imagine.
Yes.
It's an act of violence. He's taken her. He's snatched her right from us, right from our minds, and look what he's done to her. She's disfigured.
Oh, God.
That's not the way she is. That's not the way a woman looks, is it?
No.
But now she does. In here. He put it in here, and we have to get it out.
We have to get it out!
Man 1 hands the butter knife to Man 2. Man 2 charges the canvas, cuts into it, and keeps cutting until he carves out a large hole. A security guard runs in. He grabs Man 2 and drags him out of the room. Only Man 1 remains. He continues to stare at the disfigured painting. Then, without turning, he senses it, her presence. A young woman enters, nervous. She takes a lightning-quick scan of the paintings in the room and then quickly averts her gaze, staring down at the ground. Her breath is quick. She's agitated by the paintings.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy. The skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Man 1 watches her surreptitiously. Thinking she might now be ready, the young woman ventures another quick peek at a painting. Again, she quickly stares back at the ground.
This little light of mine, don't let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
I've seen you. I've watched you at the clinic.
Big girls don't cry, big girls don't cry. They don't cry, they don't cry.
Man 1 quickly leaves.
I guess I should have closed my eyes when you drove me to a place where your horses run free. Little red Corvette. Baby, you're much too fast.
A tussle is heard off stage, perhaps a loud crash. A man enters the room trying to button a museum security guard shirt over his existing shirt. It is Man 1. He looks back over his shoulder to see if anyone is following or chasing him. Nobody. He stares at the young woman. She is on the bench, curled up, her eyes covered. Man 1 takes a deep breath and begins his approach. He goes to the bench and sits down next to the woman.
Look at me, I'm a security guard. I guard security. I find that confusing. Whose security am I supposed to guard? No, that's not the first question. The first question, I believe, is if I'm guarding security, that assumes it already exists, if I'm going to guard it. But is it truly security? Security, by definition, it seems to me, doesn't need guarding. If it does, it's not truly secure. It's insecure. If you're secure, really, you don't need anything. You know what that means? The job title is wrong. And if my job title is wrong, how am I supposed to carry out my duties if I'm left to my own interpretation, really? So let's see. Okay. I'll call myself instead a security provider. Facilitator might be better. Security does not exist, so I help create an atmosphere in which it is possible, where the illusion of security is possible. But now, I'm sure you'll see my point here. If I'm to do that, to really do this job, I think I should be in charge of the way the room is arranged. Decorated, adorned. I'll tell you why. Because in my mind, this room does not arouse feelings of security. They're hard to look at, aren't they? I don't blame you. These paintings don't arouse security. They arouse emotions. Emotions. Those are not secure. Not at all. As a security facilitator, I'd take them all down, the paintings, and then I'd hire an artist to paint the room itself, paint it a more pleasing color, a more soothing color. Mauve, perhaps. Like we have at the clinic. And music. Hell, I'd put some music in here. Well, not classical. Mind you, God, no, not classical. Not in an environment like this. Music like that, it would cause a riot. Beethoven. No. I'd go with something different. Something short. Something repetitive. A standard AABA format, perhaps. Something we know the words to. Know what to expect, have heard on the radio, in stores, in techno remixes. Pop tunes, decades old. Ones we've heard over and over again. Predictable,
secure. You'd be secure.
Man 1 removes his security shirt. Gently, he wraps it around the woman's shoulders. They sit there together. End of play.
Y'all are so good. Okay, so something even lighter now. Not based on an extreme act of any kind, so hopefully it'll be a bit of a palate cleanser for our last one here. This piece came out of a commission. The Pew Research Center, as part of a series of a study of religion in public life, did a study. This particular one was a portrait of Jewish Americans. And a director named David Chapman put together an evening that he called Pooish. To get the commission, all you had to do was pass a neuroticism test, which I did. So this idea came from my nephew's bris. So the moil, the person who performs the circumcision, he knocks at the door of my brother's apartment, and my brother opens the door and looks at the moil, looks at his face, and this particular moil is cross-eyed. So my brother promptly grabs his son and runs into his room and closes the door. So this one I will read with Emily. It's called Covenant or Bagels and Butchery. And Darcy's coming back. Thank you, Darcy.
The small bedroom of a New York apartment. David, early 30s, lies on the bed, traumatized. After a moment, his wife Liz enters. She stands there a moment.
He's cross-eyed.
Yep.
A cross-eyed moil. Seems like for a man who cuts penises for a living, a basic requirement would be, sight.
He'll hear you.
As precocious as we expect our child to be, I think he's prelingual.
I mean, the moil will hear you.
So?
So what's worse than a blind moil? A blind and offended moil.
That was funny. You sure you're not Jewish?
Only by osmosis.
What a lesson for our 8-day-old child.
What is? That your own parents will send you to the slaughter? Or that bagel and lox are the perfect dish when witnessing disfigurement?
Some choose herring.
Let's cancel.
Everyone's waiting out there.
There's another lesson for him. If there's peer pressure, honey, you just go ahead and commit an act of barbarism. Be part of the crowd.
I thought we settled this.
I thought so too, but you seem unsettled.
I am.
You open the door again. This is what you get. We're canceling. I'm going out there. I'll tell everyone to go find another public mutilation for their bagel munching.
Okay. Wait, no. I don't know.
You know, the only thing I enjoy less than thinking about what will happen out there is having the same conversation about it. Again and again and again and again and again.
You married a Jew.
So?
So having the same conversations again and again and again comes with the territory.
And you married a wasp. So while you sit here gorging in your own neuroses, I'll swallow 3 gin and tonics and tell everyone to get the fuck out.
She starts off.
Stop. It's emotional, that's all.
I would hope so.
Well, maybe, that's part of it. For me, being circumcised, some studies say that an 8-day-old experiencing that kind of pain creates a kind of increased sensitivity later in life.
You mean to tell me a drop or two of wine isn't a proper anesthetic? I'm shocked.
Don't knock it. Getting him drunk is preparing him for your side of the family.
So in one fell swoop, we'll create the perfect hybrid. An alcoholic pansy.
Are you calling me a pansy?
If the shoe fits.
Well, better he be a pansy than a complete dick. And being circumcised is not a... It's a long tradition.
So is rape, murder, female genital mutilation.
Bad puns. I mean, bad puns are a tradition. You know what I did yesterday?
Torture yourself with this decision?
Well, that, and
He reaches into a nightstand drawer and pulls out a small piece of rubber.
The hell is that?
what does it look like?
Piece of rubber.
That resembles what?
Oh my god, you've got to be kidding. For what, like a memento? Here, honey, a little piece of fake foreskin to honor the day.
He reaches back into the drawer and pulls out an envelope, tosses it on the bed. She opens it, pulls out some cash.
I had it all planned out. Put this fake foreskin over Eddie's penis, then bribe the mohel to pretend it's the real thing.
Holds up the fake foreskin, pretending to be the mohel.
Mazel! And the boy chick didn't even cry. What a brave, decidedly non-pansy boy chick we have here. Just an idea. What?
I don't know, just a crazy thought. That if you're willing to bribe a mohel and fake a circumcision, you might just, go the path of slightly less resistance and absurdity and just cancel the damn thing.
I can't. I want to, but I can't. I can't.
Why?
I don't know. I thought maybe it was the importance of tradition, my father's father, his father, but that's not it.
So it's not tradition, and it's certainly not religion.
Maybe it is.
Are you fucking kidding me? You and your friends at Seder, staring stupidly one another, clinging to your liberal replacement text because no one can remember any Hebrew?
Supposedly God reunites you with your foreskin after death.
After it's been buried? Here's what happens after it's buried. Worms and beetles devour it unless...
Okay, stop. I just vomited a little in my mouth.
Well,
God made a covenant with Abraham. Cut the foreskin to identify yourself as a Hebrew.
you are not religious. You tell me you want to raise him on bad puns, on neuroticism, on bagels, on social conscience, on sneaking food on Yom Kippur. That's fine. But don't give me any God stuff now. On our first date, our very first date, what did you say? Not much of a believer in anything, except maybe the Force. That's me, Yoda over Yahweh.
You remembered.
Who could forget?
We're going to do it. We are. Let's go.
Why? I need a reason.
Faith,
Jesus Christ.
also circumcised.
I want a divorce.
I mean it. I don't think I realized it until...
Talking about it ad nauseum? Faith in what? In God?
No, I don't know, in people, maybe? That it will never happen again. We mark this child because we believe the world has changed. That's an act of faith, isn't it? Kind of?
She approaches him sweetly, stands close.
Bullshit.
No.
Bullshit. You think I don't know you better than that? You're sensitive, yes. And though I give you shit about it, I love you for it. But you are not some woo-woo optimist. You are informed, my incessant NPR quoter. Listen to this, Liz. Anti-Semitic violence
Remains the most common form of religious-based hate crime committed in this country.
and finish or I'll cancel our monthly contribution. I'll return the tote bag.
And FBI crime statistics show that those directed at Jews continue to outnumber those of any other group by a large margin.
You can keep the tote bag.
Though hate crimes across the board, and it doesn't account for race or
Yes,
for...
what a lovely time in our country. Now shut the fuck up and spit it out. Now, the real reason you decide to do this. The real reason that is lurking under there. I don't know what it is, but something inside you, something strong, made me agree to this in the first place. Agreed to have your father hold him down while some stranger, some relic from the Old Testament, cuts him.
Defiance. It's an act of defiance. That's what it is. It's not saying that I believe they'll never come for us again. It's saying that we're not afraid if you do. Even us, even those who are secular, who are agnostic, who question Israel's militarism, who are ambivalent to the point of neuroticism. Even we cut the dicks of our newborn sons. And you know what else? We stand around and nosh on bagels and make stupid jokes while we do it. No big deal. So you think about that if you want to come for us, because that's how we do. And if that day comes again, my boy and I will drop our jeans and we'll say this. This is who I am, and I am not afraid, and you will never make us disappear.
Liz holds out her hand.
Shall we?
He takes her hand.
And by the way of preemptive strike, cross-eyed, yes, but did you personally contact the last 20 families who used him?
25. And it could be an advantage. Who knows? A cross-eyed Moyle? Focus him on a central point?
There you go. Now let's go eat some herring and butcher our child.
They exit.
Thank you.